DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK.
Yeah.
Your Utah Jazz are back in action tonight. The All-Star break is over. Let's go. 26 games to the end of the season, 26 games to the end of the tank, and then we can talk draft, and we can talk off-season acquisitions and comings and goings, and then start to try and figure out where they might stack up in the West next year. And I know there's a temptation to just talk about tanking and accelerate through the final 26 games of the season. And I get it, and actually if fans want to do it, they can. But, man, in the coaching staff and the front office, still 26 games. This is still valuable. They've got young guys to assess here. They got stuff to figure out. There's going to be trades, whether they make any trades or not. They're going to be talking about them, and they got to be locked in on who they're giving up through this whole 4-year thing. You know, the hidden part of it, it's always about who's coming, but like you can't give up on somebody too soon. Somebody who's about you. You can't be on the wrong end of the SGA trade.
No, unless it's a good trade. I mean, obviously you could say, did they give up on Clayton and Hendricks? Or did they go get a guy who will be 27 years old to start the next season, and this was the price you had to pay to give it up? So
I can buy that. You just can't miss by as much as the Clippers miss because there's no way for the Clippers to get the value back, right? But it is a matter of degrees, and you do have to give up something to get something.
When I was a kid in Phoenix, you know, the Suns were – this reminds me of a little different now. Now we got the Mammoth, but for much of my time here, living here reminded me when I was a kid in Phoenix. 2
colleges, great in-state rivalry, and one NBA team.
Right, and
there you go.
The Suns just
AAA baseball
dominated.
The parallels.
I went home to a place I'd never been before, to quote John Denver. And so they would obsess over everything with the Suns. I tell you, one time a friend of mine said, "Oh man, we got to get Lorenzo Romar." And I said, "Why?" He thought Lorenzo Romar was where I was at. But they made a trade that they wanted a big man, and they traded Dennis Johnson for Rick Roby. You want to talk about being on the wrong end of the trade. And Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird says it was his best teammate, you know. And so Dennis Johnson was a really good player, a San Pedro kid from California.
Multiple NBA titles.
But played really well. That was an awful trade. So certainly you don't want to do that. And I think the Clippers giving away SGA for Paul George was not good. That was a bad trade. And away you go there. So with that in mind, we'll see what happens. I don't suspect that Walt Clayton or Taylor Hendricks will blow up. Right. And Jaren Jackson is really, really good. I think a lot of that was the draft picks, which, you know, they had at their disposal here. So the point being, for the remainder of the 6-7 weeks of the season, this is a golden opportunity for evaluation, which I don't understand why wasn't that the issue? Why wasn't that ever considered when all this tanking stuff was going on a couple of weeks ago and was that fever pitch? Like, is it, we want to evaluate our guys. We're not going to make the playoff. We could play these guys every minute of every game. We're not going to make the playoff. Why are you denying us the opportunity? Because so few teams have as many young guys through the drafts picks that we acquired when we made the trades. And G League, Summer League, pickup ball, those are all fine, but nothing compares to actual NBA basketball.
That's a great argument, but it doesn't satisfy the NBA team that's complaining. At least one NBA team is complaining, and 2 gambling companies are complaining, and the commissioner has a high-profile press conference in a few days. Now, the commissioner isn't going to do much media between now and the playoffs. I'm sure he'll pop up at playoff sites and do it. But by then, the storyline will
Well, he always does a little State of the Union.
State of the Union at the All-Star break. Yeah. At the finals, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a golden opportunity for all eyes to be on Cody Williams, to be on Collier
for sure.
Continuing with Sensabaugh.
Yes.
We know the guys who they are.
Vince Williams Jr. as a new guy to the team.
And then they got these new dudes, too, that they've only had for a couple of weeks.
What are they going to do with Conchar, right?
Yeah.
John Conchar. I mean, he's 29.
The Lion.
He's not a young guy, but he is signed for another year. And at $6 million, he could go in a trade, but is he useful? What is your rotation going to look like next year? What can he really do?
Right.
Where are you going to slot him in?
Yes, I don't understand why this is against somehow protocol and rules integrity to get a big-time evaluation on each of these individuals. Yeah, absolutely. Do it, and do it to a strong extent. And so you don't allow the other guys to play as much. That's bad? That doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, Locke brought up the point, and I think we can disagree on where we land on our evaluation of the guys, but the point is right. It is one thing to play regular season games versus playoff games, obviously, and it's also another thing to play regular season games when the team is tanking, there's no expectation of winning, which is really every NBA game that Collier has ever played in, every NBA game that Sensabaugh has ever played in, every NBA game that Ace Bailey and Cody Williams have ever played in. I think from what we've seen of them, I think when the competition is more real in the regular season, when they're fighting for something, I think these guys have established the point that I think they can play backup minutes and be rotation guys and battle work. I think when they get to the playoffs or when they're playing elite teams in the regular season, it's really going to show. They're going to be teams with better benches. But there'll be a lot of nights that these young guys, as bench guys, I think they can perform pretty well and help them win games, especially given what I think the starting lineup is going to look like.
See, I don't think the Jazz now going forward, even though, and it's a little bit of a contradiction, so you got to hear me out, I don't think they're tanking exclusively for the purpose to stay in the draft. I think to a good degree, positions 6 through 10 are open for winning. And they're going to try to win next year. That's an absolute fact. Even Presti of Oklahoma City and Adam Silver or whomever, Doris Burke, the great minds of the NBA, they all can see the Jazz are using this time to evaluate who are our rotation guys when we start to win. And it's not like some of these teams, they tank this year, they're going to be tanking next year. Who knows when the tanking is going to be over? There's really no plan. Their plan is to lose for losing sake so they can get the highest pick possible. The Jazz, yes, they're losing to keep the pick, but they're also evaluating for the distinct purpose and real purpose of winning next year. That's an easy argument to make. It doesn't take any stretch of the imagination to make that.
Because I think it's not only about winning next year, it's also about what trades they may or may not make this summer. And also, who do they pay and who do they keep and what are they going to do? All these guys are starting to come up against the point where, okay, you got a team option to check out Sensabaugh for another year and Vince Williams for another year, but you're going to have to make a decision on paying them. And if you go right to the end without cutting a deal, some of these guys may get extensions. We'll have to see. Now, at what price, right? Walker Kessler could have gotten an extension last summer, but he didn't. And, how much tension is there over that? How big is the gap? How big is the gap now versus how big was it, back in September, October, whatever, when they weren't coming together?
Changed dramatically since then.
And so, all of these things weigh in. The coaches are probably more concerned about, hey, develop these guys, get them better. But the front office is thinking, do I want to cut a deal with this guy? What's the number? And can we get that figured out? And will the guy agree? And will we get it across the finish line? Yeah. And then the phone's going to ring about some team, trying to get some player. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Right. All those things are factoring in. And it starts tonight. I was surprised that Locke had dismissed Collier as much. I know his shortcomings. We all know them.
Yeah.
But running an offense is not one of them. And when you're amassing this level of assists to turnovers, that's valuable. Collier has a place in this league, man. And there's a deficiency there. I understand. Okay. But there's also other stuff that he can do. And I can go down the list with all these guys. And obviously with Ace Bailey, you're not looking for him to be a rotational guy. That's not the goal here.
No, the goal with him is to play him, develop him. To me, that's one of the big arguments for, aside from keeping the pick, obviously. We're just setting that aside for now. One of the big arguments with going to lineup out there is make Ace Bailey the featured guy in the fourth quarter or for entire games and say, Ace, this is what it's like when a whole defense is geared up to stop you. You're going to have to get used to this.
Yeah, that makes me nervous, though, that they might win.
if the whole defense is geared up to stop, if he's the best player on the court, I'm thinking that team's small.
Right, but suppose he succeeds.
Well, if he's that good that he just starts taking over one game after another, then they'll shut him down too.
I do think he can get his shot perimeter-wise off about anybody because he's taller, he's athletic. So we saw it a little bit in the Miami game, right? They lost Orlando, won Miami, right? Mm. I thought he just continues to show signs.
I told you a few weeks ago that if it may come to the point where they have to sit Sensabaugh or Collier or Ace. I mean, we already know they're going to have to sit Keontae and Markkanen in games. They're going to have to, or they're going to win too many games. But some of these other guys may have to sit too, depending on what happens. I mean, they could see some very watered down lineups going forward. And these guys, I think they're good enough to beat those lineups.
Right. So that's why I'm nervous. I want to see Sevi be the featured guy.
Sevi Ballesteros.
Sevi Mahalawu.
Svi.
I want to see him be the featured guy.
I can see his minutes going up. Absolutely.
What is George in his third year or fourth year?
Keontae George is in his third year.
Right. So
he's making the third year jump.
I want to see the same jump that George has clearly made in Ace Bailey in year 3.
Totally get that. Yeah.
Right. And then
he's been good this year.
At that point, they're really on to something.
Well, they need Ace Bailey to make a jump because although they've done a lot of good things here putting a team together, you know, the championship window requires one of the top 5 or top 10 players in the league, maybe 2 of the top 10 if you don't have one of the top 3 or 4 or whatever. And I don't see anybody, I mean, I like a lot of these guys. Markkanen and Jackson have been all-stars, but I don't think anybody describes them as some of the top 10 players in the league. But I do think putting them together, there's extra bonus because of their size. But Ace Bailey, if you say who on this roster right now is most likely to end up all-NBA first or second team, top 10 in the league, it's Ace Bailey.
I could see Jaren Jackson. I wonder if you have.
You could argue anything. So you could make a case for Jackson, Markkanen, and probably Keontae George for that matter. But the easiest,
loosely on the last 2.
I get it, but the easiest argument to make is for Ace Bailey.
How about if they have 4 of the top 20?
Yeah, if it's a guy like 12, 17, 19, 20. First off, I think the margins are so slim at that point. Whereas like from guys 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a big spread between those guys and guys 7, 8, 9.
Right, but we're not debating where they fall on the list.
No,
we're
but if
saying
they're in that,
the Jazz starting lineup.
If you had 4 of that group, that'd be interesting because I'm trying to think of a team or a roster where that's been the case.
Well, everybody goes back to that Detroit one when the Lakers were a mess.
And maybe that's what it takes. Like if the 1 or 2 teams that have top 5 players that really have a true roster around them.
And then when Jordan was out, they had.
But Olajuwon was a top 5 player.
I was going to say he was top 1 or 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then they had nobody else who.
No. At that point, it felt Drexler came in,
but first year.
But it felt like everybody else on that roster was between player 40 and 100.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe they got lucky because Jordan was out. Yeah. But so what? Doesn't matter. But I just wonder, especially if the top 2 or 3 players aren't that massively separated. Meaning,
we could argue that now.
Jordan was the top player in the league during his time,
but it was a long way to number 2 most of those years.
And so maybe if it's more jumbled,
like Jokic and
top,
SGA, and
yeah, and you haven't had a player ascend to that level, but you still have your top 4 guys combined 1 through 4 could compete with anybody else's top 4. How good can you be then?
Well, I do think that opens the Jay-Z had that quote about opening the championship window and keeping it open. Well, certainly you're in the mix with that. You know, whether you would pull it off or not, I guess we just have to get there, see how those teams are built and all that kind of stuff. But you would certainly be in that mix where you're one of the top 2, 3 teams in the league if you had 4 of the top 20 players.
So that's where I'm going with this group. I don't know that I'll get there, but that's what I'm looking at. And can they overcome it? And then you have a really solid bench. Because they sort of had that in the Gobert Mitchell years.
Yeah, they had a good bench. Yeah, they had the sixth man of the year, and they had the runner-up in ballot.
Right, but I meant
but down further.
The bench they had the really good. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about.
Oh, at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they had 4 of the top 20, but I get your point as far as Gobert and Mitchell were way up there. And then now I'm trying to think of the whole starting lineup for that era. And then Bogey, yeah, where would Bogey have been? I mean, he was kind of one-dimensional. Like, he shot it and he scored. They had to really get on to rebound. There was a game in Houston, I remember once, like 35 points and 1 rebound or something like that.
And he joked about it.
Yeah.
That wasn't his game.
No.
But, I mean, they didn't have the elite defensively in Gobert. They did, but they didn't have that. But yet they were still pretty good. And obviously they flunked out in the postseason. But then that you have to hope that you're a little bit better at that point. And I think that the potential of this group is better than that group.
Yeah. I can see why you say that. I can absolutely see why you say that. They were
a game away from making a conference final.
They were super dependent. Well, they were 2 away, weren't they? They lost in 6 to the Clippers. They would have had to win 6 and 7 to get there.
Right.
But I think that, I can see where the skills build off each other. It's not like Markkanen's a shot blocker or a big defensive stopper or something, but when you're the second or third 7-footer, I mean, it just gets hard to pass the ball because, like, if all the 7-footers stick their arms out, like, passing lanes are just shrinking literally left and right. They could become a really good – they've been a terrible defensive team, literally bottom of the league, number 30. But that could change pretty quickly and pretty dramatically if they re-up Kessler this summer.
I think it will.
Yeah, and those 3 are on the court. You could always have 2 of the 3 on the court, and sometimes you're going to have all 3 on the court.
There's no reason why Bailey can't be a good perimeter defender.
Yes, yeah. And again, you'd have a guy who'd have size and length. I don't think that there'd ever be a Jazz team. They have more talent and more cohesiveness and more continuity. But as far as like just sheer size, length, and athletic ability, this would be the tallest, longest, most athletic team. Now you throw in skill, right? Stockton and Mitchell are smaller guys, but they're highly skilled. But they were trying to beat double teams with guys coming at them who are 4, 5, 6 inches taller than them. And all of a sudden, the Jazz can run a big lineup out on the floor.
I can get super excited about the Jazz next 2 to 3 years pretty easily.
The funny thing is just when you said pretty excited, I thought 1 year for sure, probably 2. By then we may see some limitations. And I wonder if there'll be more pressure, Once the expectations come, the pressure gets heightened. And there's always, there'll be more expectations next year, so there'll be more pressure. But I still don't think there'll truly be a lot of pressure because I think that team's going to have such a good roster and they're going to come from so far down in the standings to so far up. And there won't be any pressure in the postseason. It'll be low expectations. Man, you get to year 3, though, it'll be like, hey, you got to win a playoff series or 2. This is different now. A lot like, actually, BYU. The first year with Kevin Young, hey, you got to win a tournament game or 2. You got to get Sweet 16. Now, immediately the next year it goes to, you got DeBonce, you've been Sweet 16, you got to Elite 8 or Final 4. The injuries have obviously undercut that. But I think postseason expectations for the Jazz will climb pretty quickly the same way they did for BYU.
Yeah. And you never know what's going to happen in the league. It's impossible to predict, but maybe OKC gets bugged by the can't pay everybody like they did before. So I'm excited, and especially if you add a really good player this coming summer to the mix, and then that player can come along at his own pace. Yeah. So in 2 to 3 years when he's ready, man, who knows, man?
DJ and PK, we are brought to you by University of Utah Health. At University of Utah Health, hope is in our DNA. Learn more at uofuhealth.org. We're going to take a break. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, we got to focus on the college basketball. 3 teams with 3 interesting games coming up tomorrow night, and we will get to the Utes, the Cougars, and the Aggies next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in. It is time to get you caught up to date on everything we're talking about. I think we need to talk about a lot of college basketball. We've already talked about a lot of college basketball in the show, but just get you up to speed on the big games this weekend. The Slacker Radio Hotlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at trajanwealth.com. All right, we got 3 interesting games here, PK, and I'm curious, Utes, Cougars, Aggies, and they're going to overlap here. How are you going to prioritize them? I know based on competition, when a game becomes a blowout, then you'll drop it down to number 3 and watch the 2 more competitive games. I didn't think I was going to spend as much time watching Utah and West Virginia as I did, but I thought that ended up being a wildly competitive game. Plus the reviews. My gosh, games come to a grinding stop sometimes. I was getting sucked into the Ute game. It started half an hour earlier, and then the Cougars started, so I went over, and I want to go back and watch the Utes. It's like, oh, they got a review. It's easy to go watch the Cougars now. And there's a commercial break. I go over, they got another review. It's easy to go back to the Cougars now. That thing just dragged on. Sidebar, Your Honor.
Just have one referee.
So
they save money.
Gosh.
And then go to reviews every play.
Utah, they win a game. Can they get back-to-back conference wins? They're hosting UCF. BYU, can they take down a ranked team, Iowa State? Utah State, they've been crushing everybody at home. This has been a great run. Now they got to go on the road to a Nevada team that is not great, but is good, and they've been really good at home, 12-2. So can they go to the old Lawler Event Center and keep rolling in Reno? Most intriguing game for you.
Oh, it's BYU all the way.
There it is. Number 6, Iowa State coming in. Can the Cougars do it short-handed?
I'm planning to go to that game.
Oh, there it is. So you won't be doing the channel surfing thing. You'll be there and locked down on it.
Well, nothing against you. It's been not playing for anything.
They are not.
And
a little momentum, a little confidence, maybe something that helps the guys think we made progress, and for the younger guys to come back for Alex.
Aggies have reached the point where their season will be determined by an NCAA tournament.
It's clear they're going to be in. What are they going to be seeded? Yeah. That's what they're playing for now.
Right. So that if they win 2 games, who cares?
BYU is also playing for seeding, but they're playing for identity in the here and now with the newly reconfigured lineup after the injury to Saunders.
Yeah, I think they're playing for, hey, to show the world we got this. That's what they're playing for. We got this. Do you have this?
Beat Iowa State, and then it opens a conversation about winning out in the regular season, because Iowa State is clearly, especially with the injury to Toppin at Texas Tech, Iowa State is clearly, on paper, the most difficult game left. And sure, Cincinnati and West Virginia on the road, but Iowa State's 23-3 and number 6 in the country, and they're all sorts of fantastic.
And the Cougars hung in there against Arizona. That's a tough first game without Richie Saunders. You would have liked to, at least with Dawson Baker, they've had a good while to not overcome it, but deal with it more appropriately with his loss. So Richie was a massive blow, and it was a massive emotional blow, and then you got to go on the road to play Arizona.
Right.
It's pretty tough.
Yock brought up the point yesterday that Iowa State's 3-3 on the road, that for all of their success, 23-3, ranked 6th in the country, 10-3 in conference, all these great numbers, 3-3 on the road. In their most recent road game, they lost at TCU. So if they can lose at TCU, and they've also lost at Cincinnati, if they can lose at Cincinnati, why can't they lose at BYU? The third road loss is at Kansas, and let's face it, a lot of really good teams are going to go to Kansas and lose there. Their road wins in conference, Oklahoma State. Kansas State's terrible. Oklahoma State is decent, and they won at Baylor by 10. That's a nice win. So they're capable of winning nice games on the road. I would certainly think that the Baylor and Oklahoma State wins are nice wins, because not only do they win, but they beat Oklahoma State by 13.
Yeah.
And Baylor by 10. So good wins for the Cyclones on the road. So you don't really know what you're going to get. They could come in and take it to you, but you could come in and take it to them. It all hangs in the balance.
Yes. And the crowd will be energized. You'll be sitting in your hotel or their dorm room or wherever they hold you up during game days. I know a lot of teams go to a hotel the night before.
Yeah.
And then you can be watching Houston and Arizona and listening to the announcers just rave over those guys and get your blood boiling even a little bit more, and sit there and have an opportunity to show the committee, the world, yourselves, your fans, and everyone who follows BYU basketball, and there's a lot of folks, that you can show them what you're about, and you can do it, man. And this is a huge game. This is as big a game as they've played all season.
Can a role player step in and make a big difference?
You're gonna have to give us something. I don't know that you need to do what the U of A kid did and give you 22, I think it was.
I was about to go to that.
Yeah.
That was...
You got it. They got to get something. And I don't want to hear about the injuries relative to the lack of role-playing production because that's two different things.
It is. So guy Nate becomes a guy who was a guy 8, is guy 7, guy was 7, is guy 6. Like some of these guys, it's not, you're not swapping out 5 guys here.
Right.
It's one guy. Now you've got to do a little more, and certainly in the case of someone like Davis, his role definitely expands, right? He's now the 3rd scoring option, and he gave him 10 points on the road in Arizona, maybe even 15 at home. Why not?
Well, he didn't take that many FGAs to get that.
Exactly.
And he got fouled and made all of his free throws.
I didn't think the stat line was reflective of some of the good things he did.
A player like that normally isn't.
Right. But I was specifically looking, like when he gets the ball, if your feet are set and you're wide open, you take the shot whether Saunders is healthy or not. But when Saunders wasn't there, he'd move it. You're less likely to drive. But I thought at Arizona, like he did drive and it worked. He had one specific one. They were going left to right and he drove to the baseline and he threw a great diagonal pass and it was, the whole swing, right? It was the pass that led to the pass and they got right a wide open three and he made it.
Then threw it to
yes. And
right.
It's like it's a hockey assist. He doesn't get credit for it. But like, dude, you created that play. Because you chose to put it on the floor. Right. You chose to get into the paint and collapse the defense. And you chose to make the right decision and find DeBonsa with a diagonal pass.
That was a great play because he got into the teeth rather than try to force something.
Yes.
Sees DeBonsa. As the ball's coming to DeBonsa, he knows already I'm throwing it to right.
He could see the defense running at him, and they weren't going to get to right.
Human beings cannot run faster than passes.
Right.
And so he quickly passes. As soon as he gets it, it's hot potato, and then right is wide open, and they make the play. So I think we'll see more of that. That's why I have a level of optimism for this group, because it's a new set of parameters and circumstances, and they're going to need some time to adjust. Now, with all that in mind, they still need something out of 2 or 3 bench guys. They're getting nothing. And what's bugging me is I'm watching these other guys that could have come to BYU, do it for TCU, do it for Clemson, do it for Virginia.
Virginia's got a really good team. Like they're ranked. You'll be interested to see where they're seeded. Are they a 3, 4, 5 seed? How does it play out? But who plays the most minutes for the Cavs? He doesn't have gaudy stats. He doesn't score a bunch of points, bunch of rebounds, assists, but he's steady across the board, and the coaches must love what he brings to the team because Dallin Hall's playing 28 minutes a game, and everybody else is playing less than that. Like, he is making the right basketball play, whether it shows up in a box score or not, because there is a 0% chance he'd be getting 28 minutes for any other reason. And he could have done that here.
Yeah, that's why I said he was the biggest loss for me off of last year's team, knowing that they had a top 8 pick. Because I can argue that they replaced what Yegor gave them, but they haven't replaced what Hall has given them, and that's mental toughness. I watched them play. Who'd they play? Ohio State, was it? It was a non-conference game here just last week or so.
Oh, yeah. No, they played it was a made-for-TV Saturday night game in Nashville that Fox put on in prime time. I watched it, yeah.
And just his toughness.
That's why I know his stats, because he was playing well in that game. And I'm like, I know he's doing well and the team's doing well. What's he doing? I looked it up during a commercial break. Yeah. And I saw the minutes.
He's playing well, and they missed some mental toughness on this team that he could provide.
And as a veteran, they could feed off his confidence. Right. I mean, there's so many positives there to be had.
I think he would have been playing 25 minutes had he stayed. But I don't know what the money situation is, and maybe, Odom, I assume, knew him when he was out here coaching at Utah State.
You got to think.
And there was a connection there, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And away you go. But they've got to, and they got who they got this year, but they've got to make sure going forward, you can have top-end talent, and that's great, but you need 6, 7, and 8. You need those
depth,
types of guys.
Right. You need depth, you need production, you need role guys, you need glue guys.
And there's guys out there, LDS guys, that could have helped him, and maybe they didn't want to come. And I was told one guy in particular wanted to, but BYU wasn't interested that much, so he said to heck with it. And I think it's coming back to bite him.
That's the number one thing is get a list of like the top 20 local players and show them some love and stay in touch.
Well, and LDS players.
And tell that, yes. And tell
Which
them.
not are always local.
Right. They're not always. No, you could find a kid who is an LDS who's from Utah wants to come home, and you could find an LDS kid from out of state, maybe an Arizona or California kid. But
who's familiar with BYU.
Who's familiar with BYU. And
like
maybe
Lee Camard.
And his parents may have played here or gone here, or grandparents or whatever.
Camard's from Tempe.
But mostly,
they got him to come.
If you said 25 guys, I bet at least 15 and maybe 20 of them would be both. They'd be both LDS and in-state.
If they're good enough.
Well, that's the thing, is even if they aren't good enough out of school, you got to follow them, stay in touch with their high school and AAU coaches. Hey, we keep our eye on them. We know what's going on. There might be a chance. We'll see.
Or ship them off to
UVU.
UVU,
or if depending on who the coaches are, because coaches are changing every year now. Just always have 5 coaches who develop guys. Could be Weber, Utah Tech, Southern Utah.
If they're comfortable, we know
UVU
Todd Phillips at UVU is comfortable with that.
Yes, and we know he's good at developing players.
Dave Rose, Vegas, UNLV would ship off players. He told me the story when Keenan Clark came in, showed up at the office when it was Dixie at junior college, and Dave said he was looking down, reading something on his computer. He said he hears a voice, coach, and he said so his eyes are low, and it goes to his feet, goes to his calves, goes to his knees. He said, and 5 minutes later, I finally get to his face because Keenan Clark was super tall.
Long, yeah. 6'11" string bean.
Right. Do that, man. Got to do something. You have to do something to get better bench production.
I think keeping track of those 20, 25 guys who have ties for one reason or another, or sometimes more than one reason, and bringing them back. I mean, they do it to a degree. Who's the kid from Corner Canyon? They recruited me. Kozlowski hasn't played. There have been injuries and all that. They have brought in local guys and tried to develop it. It hasn't paid off yet. Yeah. But you've only got 3-4 spots on the roster maybe for that kind of player. So you got to keep track of the other 10, 15, 20 guys who might be good enough in a year or two, depending on how they develop.
But you need those guys to be good the second you get them on campus, because if you keep going after the one-and-done guys, there is no future. Kozlowski has no future with DeBonsa.
No. He may have a future, but it'll be with whoever the next star is.
So if you want to, when you want to cash in, and there's this kid out there, Branch, that they're talking about, if he ends up coming and he's supposed to be great, blah, 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 you have to make sure that your bench guys are immediate. Right. It's not going to be in a year or two, because if you keep going after these top-end talent, they're going to leave immediately. Everyone, if they don't even make the tournament, everybody expects DeBonsa to do what Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper did. They were out. They didn't make the tournament at Rutgers. Yeah. So what? They're gone.
So, there's a lot made about NBA coaches coming to college, and I think the transitions are tough for multiple reasons. But one thing, the budgeting is, however much money you've got, whatever it is, even if you got the "we won't be outbid" quote, do you spend two guys? Do 2 guys get, a quarter or a third of the money? So ultimately, a half to 2/3 of the money, 50 to 67%, because they're these high-end one-and-done prospects, right? And then there are a couple guys who maybe are going to be in college 2 or 3 years. They're pretty good players. And then can you fill out with the rest of the money, fill out the rest of the roster? I don't know what the equation is, but there's some equation like that. And clearly this team's top-heavy. And this is just something, NBA guys coming to college, and they probably didn't have much say in the front office. They're bringing coaching experience, but now they got to run the front office part of this. And if you don't get that right, this is why they're all hiring GMs, to get this right. And so I assume they better be drilling down deep into this and figuring out what that equation is going forward.
Most especially now, tomorrow night, they got to find a way to go out and get a win. That changes everything. Changes the whole look of the team.
For the positive.
Yeah, they need it.
Yeah. Now, if they lose, if they don't find someone to be their Anthony Del Orso and give them a big boost outside of the star players, then we're going to be saying in the next game, well, now you can change the story for the negative. You better win. That's just a given. And a loss would send a message that is devastating. So there's not everything, but there's so much hanging in the balance the next game or two.
Right. I agree.
Yep. All right, Utah State, they're going to win in Reno. They're going to take care of business.
I don't see any reason why they don't. I just don't. I don't see any reason why they don't.
Yeah. And that sets up San Diego State for a game that would be, if you win that, you're going to be the regular season champ. You're going to be the 1 seed in the tournament. Even though there's still, I think, 3 games to go at that point. You'll have a 2-game lead in the league. You will be.
If you ask me which would I rather have for Utah State?
San Diego State.
No. I'm talking about regular season title or conference tournament title. I'd rather have regular season.
Means more?
Because you don't need that other one. That's a 3-day tournament.
Yep.
That's not a season.
That's what you need when you're on the bubble or on the outside looking in.
Right.
Because I need the automatic berth.
Right.
I don't want to be sweating or disappointed on Sunday.
Right. They won't need that.
No,
if they win the regular season, they are in. Absolutely. And if they can go ahead and win the tournament, I'm not saying discount it, but I'm saying if I had to choose between the two.
Yeah, I get it.
Majerus has drilled that in my mind for a decade.
Hey, he was 100% on board with the regular season. And that was in an era when it was a true home and home run robin. It's a little different now. You're missing a few teams in the Mountain West. You're barely playing anybody twice in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Although you are playing everybody once, so there's still more truth to that than there is to a 3 or 4 game tournament. Yeah. Yeah. And then you got the Utes. You were complaining a couple days ago, about the possibility of you were barring trouble from the future. Well, what if all these guys leave? I think that's what's at stake for Utah right now. Show some progress and some positivity so that, man, if a guy gets an extra $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, he's going to go somewhere else. And if he gets $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 more, Utah is going to stay. But assuming that these coaches get better at pricing guys' value, when the deal's about the same, you want these players to think, hey, we got better over the course of the season. This guy coached me up. I got better. We got better. Why would I go chase another $25,000 or whatever over here? So beat UCF at home.
It depends on where that $25,000 is. If it's a place where
they get more playing time?
No.
Closer to home?
Playing time, yes.
Closer to home.
Yes, but I was going to say has 10,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, that's more fun, right?
Yeah.
That's more fun than playing in front of 4.
They're not drawn. They only draw BYU. That's it.
Yep.
And so you can see reasons. And it can thwart your rebuilding process. It also can advance it because you can go get guys who are better, too.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, Alex is making all these decisions. We've talked about the Jazz are using the last 26 games to evaluate players. Alex is using this last handful of games to keep evaluating.
He's been using the whole season.
He has been, but who's getting better?
But I think it's good for them if they can say, hey, we won 3 out of our last 5.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
And actually, the schedule gets even easier in this. They've got several teams near the bottom of the league that they still get to play. They have Kansas State, who's obviously in turmoil. They still have Colorado. They have ASU, who has the impending coaching change, it looks like. So there's chances for them to pick up games. If they get this one.
Right. That's why I said.
Yeah.
I know that. I saw the schedule. And go ahead and say you won 3 out of your last 5, 4 out of your last 6.
Whatever it turns out to be.
Have some development that is positive from a winning standpoint.
All right, DJ and PK, there you are. You're all caught up. Stuff we've been talking about in the show. All the college basketball tomorrow. The Utes are at 7 o'clock. That's streaming only, ESPN 1. The Aggies are at 8 on FS1 and BYU at 8:30 on ESPN. And we are back with your feedback next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for your feedback. Matt Ishbia made some news. Suns owner says tanking is a losing behavior done by losers. What would you say to him? Brian, Ishbia traded all his pick control. He can't tank until kids in the 6th grade today are NBA draft eligible. Of course he hates tanking. He tanked his franchise with the KD and Beal trades.
Well, he tanked it for the short term. I think they've recovered a little bit. We'll see where they fit in. Are they right now? They're in the middle. Can they get better? Remains to be seen. But yeah, he does. That was an awful in retrospect, and that's how we evaluate trades is in retrospect, right? You do it in the moment, but then the proof comes in at the end, and that was a bomb. And they traded away too many picks, right? So. And he's young in terms of his leadership of the organization, and it didn't go well. Now he's got to sell it to fans. We would never do that. I would never do that to you. So he's kind of getting political there. But when you think about it, and we've been talking about it all freaking morning and for 2 weeks, the Jazz are trying to win. This is the method to go about trying to win.
Jeffrey says 2 words for the Suns. DeAndre Ayton. Granted, that was prior ownership, but it's the franchise history.
DeAndre Ayton, yikes.
That stings.
And, I thought at the time that was a good pick. I got to be totally honest.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know about this Doncic guy. Boy, I was wrong, but I don't suffer any consequence for being wrong.
Right.
I don't care.
You also don't spend millions of dollars flying around the world nonstop evaluating these guys literally for years.
Right.
I mean, the investment in time and energy, I think it's very underappreciated how many jet-lagged days they have staggering into gyms to watch somebody.
But if I'm the Suns with that leadership at that time and that ownership, I say, oh, yeah, ours sucked. But look what the Kings did. They took Marvin Bagley. That's even worse.
There's a long line of big mistakes at the top of drafts. Markel Fultz.
And look what Dallas did. They traded Doncic.
Great draft. Terrible trade. Should have at least gotten like 4 draft picks back, even if they botched all the draft picks. How did they only get 1?
For Luka, you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Should have gotten a bigger haul.
That's awful.
Harley's with him, though. He says, HB's 100% right. I've been saying it for 4 years. I'll never cheer for losing no matter the circumstances. I understand why they tank, but they're still losers, along with every fan actively cheering for the losing. 1 year, okay. 4 years, pathetic. I got to say, if we're just coming clean on stuff I thought this was a 1 or 2 year deal because they'd seen Danny Ainge do a 1 year rebuild in Boston and a 2 year deal. And what I wildly underestimated was how locked up the trade market. I always thought he'd make a trade that jumped the thing forward and sped it up. And they just did with Jackson, but it took 3.5 years to make that trade.
They didn't have any players that were going to allow it to jumpstart. You got to have players, too. You're just not going to make trades for draft picks, and then all of a sudden we're good to go.
Wasn't the Jackson trade mostly? I mean, Memphis is starting over.
But they have players now.
They do have players.
That's what I'm saying.
I got to play, but I just don't think the players were really what drove that pick. I mean, they wanted him, and they had to put some in for salary purposes, and they got some young players who may turn out to be nice players.
Oh, that's Memphis's deal. I'm saying the Jazz had to have some players that they could build upon. They didn't have Kessler. He has to develop a little bit, and then he doesn't play this year.
I still thought there'd be a big trade to move it along. Obviously, I'm wrong. You don't tell me
but
wrong.
But you're not wrong. It is now.
Well, it is now. I just didn't think it'd take 4 years. I thought it'd be more like
Austin saying, get off my back. It only took 1.
Austin did do it quickly. And then Danny would be like, well, yeah, but look at all the players and picks I built up for you. It's never one thing. It's always a lot of things. All right, we're out of time. Jake and Ben are up next right here on The Zone.